Happy New Year, you guys. It's the new year, it's 2026, and I want us to get into our 2026 goals, but not just any type of goals. I want to talk about if I was going to start DevOps all over again in 2026, what I would do. So here's what I would do. If I was starting off with like a blank slate, I was starting off DevOps in 2026 from scratch. My first step would not be to get certifications. It would not be to learn AWS, Kubernetes, Docker, all these different tools. That's actually not what I would do. So if I had the opportunity to go back, I honestly would spend my first 3 months on 5 things that I feel like would make everything else easier. One thing that I've learned working in DevOps, honestly going from software CM, hardware CM, systems engineering, systems integration, DevOps. One thing I've learned is every company does similar things different ways, but it's so easy to get lost in tools. It's so easy to be like, I need to learn this tool. I need to learn this language. I need to learn XYZ. I need to get this certification. I need to do that. And you end up racking up like, oh, this language, but I don't know it that well. I know this tool, but I don't know how to integrate it or do it with what my company actually needs me to do. That's one thing that I've learned. And it's one thing that I first in the beginning was like learning so many different things. And then it kind of feels overwhelming. It feels very, very overwhelming when you're just grabbing and you have no plan. You're just trying to learn things for the sake of learning it. But do you really get it? Like, do you get it for real, for real? Here's an example. Like, I remember at another job, I was using Ansible. And it's another IAC tool. Like, you can use it to build out infrastructure. I was using Ansible playbooks, and I was using that to build out EC2 instances and doing some testing stuff, right? If you were to ask me today how to write in Ansible, it would take me a while to remember, right? And the reason why I would probably still be able to do it is not because I got so good at Ansible. It's because I went and started to understand like foundational things, and that makes it so that I can easily dip my foot in different things. That tool alone, like I learned it, and then I didn't use it ever again at a different company because the company I went to next didn't use Ansible. Another example before that is Jenkins. I was using Jenkins for quite a while because a lot of companies were using Jenkins. So I was writing Groovy scripts. If you asked me to read Groovy today, the only reason why I would know how to read it is because I built out like foundational understanding of how to read programming and scripts. Would I be able to write it just off the bat? No, I wouldn't. I wouldn't be able to. There's so many tools that like you can start off using from one company to another. If you're not careful, you're just gonna be grabbing a whole bunch of tools, but not really know how to use it. And then if you don't keep using it, you're gonna forget. So it's gonna be on your resume, you're gonna get into an interview, and then somebody's gonna be like, oh, I see that you use XYZ. And then you're like, oh my gosh, I haven't used that in like 5 years. Like, why are you asking me that? And then when you're trying to talk about it, they're gonna think you're lying. They're gonna think you're actually lying. When I went from software CM to systems engineer to systems integration to DevOps, the one thing that remained consistent throughout this whole time was the terminal, the command line. There's not a day that I'm not writing something in the command line. And the one thing that was consistent, company to company, role to role, has always needing to know how to move around the command line, needing to know how to write and read scripts in Bash, move around the command line, and understanding like file structures, understanding paths, understanding how to get from one place to another. I don't think you can start off or be successful, my opinion, but I don't think it's possible to be successful as an engineer that does either systems, DevOps, even if you're in cyber. Like, I think it's very, very hard to be successful if you don't want to learn how to move around the command line or understand the terminal, understand Bash, basic Bash scripting. Like, I think that is the first step. And the thing I like about it is that it's actually not that hard. Like, some people who can program and they can do their programming in C and all of this, that's not my thing. But moving around the command line is actually quite easy. And it's just so easy because there's so much documentation, like if you forget a command, but once you start moving around it, once you start writing scripts in Bash, the commands will come to you because you'll start to remember because you use them all the time. My point is moving around the terminal. That's number one. I think the next thing that is really, really important, honestly, if you want to be successful in 2026 as a DevOps engineer, is understanding how developers collaborate through Git. I think it never really was a thought in my mind of like, okay, we have this application and everybody needs to work on some form of code base. How is that getting done? Like, obviously from college, because I don't think, well, I was in Mechie, so I don't know, software engineers and computer science, y'all tell me, like, were you guys actually really interacting using GitHub when you were in college? I personally did not use Git until I was actually like in the workforce. I didn't even use it at my first job. They use a different code base. I'm trying to remember. I can't remember what it was, but it was my second job in the workforce that I was using Git. And we were using Garrett, which is like it's Git based. So the commands are the same. All the Git commands to the CLIs are the same. And I went from Garrett to GitLab and then GitHub. Once you get the basics of the commands of Git, like you get the Git commands, understanding, but also being curious and understanding like, how are we collaborating on code? How is it that if I'm working on something locally, you're able to work on something that we're gonna both work on and push to the same branch? How are we testing out our code? How is it that we are all working in one big repo together to bring out like a new feature? Like, how does all of that map out? How does that work? And that's one thing that I think is very, very important for you to understand. You need to know how to, because it's not something that they teach. It's something that is expected when you're at the job. So like when you come to a job, especially in this 2026, when there's no training anymore, there's barely any entry-level roles, these are things that they're like, you need to come with. They will teach you about their product. They will teach you about maybe one of the tools that they use with their product. But the basic skills that they want is you already know how to move around the CLI and you know how to push, pull, branch, merge, all that stuff using Git. Like that's not things that they're willing, at least from what I'm seeing, willing honestly to teach anymore. It's really not just memorizing using Git, but it's really understanding how to collaborate with other developers using Git. Like don't just memorize the commands, but understanding them. Let's say I messed up a branch or something. I was the number one person who would not want to like figure out how do I rebase this branch or how do I do it. I would delete the whole thing and just reclone and redo my work. And it's one thing that I was like, Michelle, like this is not gonna help you. You need to really understand Git. And still in the process of making sure like I'm really, really good at it. But like, obviously I've been using Git for a while. So I get enough to be able to move around and collaborate with developers using it. But I think that is one of the tools that you need to know. And it's not something that they're gonna teach you. Like I'm sorry to say it, but I don't think when you go to a company, they're gonna be like, oh yeah, we're willing to teach you how to push pull from a repo or how to clone from this branch and or how to make your branch and what the proper steps are. I don't think companies are doing that anymore. So in 2026, as you're getting onto your DevOps goals, make sure you add creating a GitHub account, knowing how to collaborating with other developers and with your friends. If you guys tell me, do you want a video on how to set up your GitHub account and set up your SSH keys and learning how to just do the first thing, create a repo and cloning that repo locally to you. If all that sounds foreign and you want a video on that, write it in the comments and let me know and I can do a step-by-step tutorial for that. Or if you're like, I already know that stuff, but I would like a video on, let's say, cloning somebody else's repo, creating a branch and then pushing up changes to that branch, then merging that into the repo, and you want a tutorial on that, or just any type of like branching type of activities with GitHub, then y'all let me know if y'all want a video on that. The next thing that I would say as a DevOps engineer in 2026 that you need to know is understanding program concepts. Wait. I'm not saying you need to become a programmer. Hear me out, y'all, hear me out, because I'm not a programmer, really. I really wouldn't call myself a programmer. But what I will say is you need to know concepts of programming.
Yes or no, you still do not have a plan.
I have concepts of a plan. I'm not president right now.
And when I say that, I mean like you need to know how to read and understand the gist of what it's doing. And what I've learned looking at different code bases and looking at a lot of things, programming is usually when are they using an if statement, when are they using a while loop, and when are they using for statements. Understanding like, oh, what is this function doing? When is this function getting called? What are these variables? Like there's basic concepts of it, so that way when you're coming from one language to another language to another language, you're actually able to read and get the gist of what it is. Like for example, working on a project at work, right? Working on adding an update to something that I'm doing, and it's written in a language called Go. I've never written in Go before. Working on this project was new to me, like learning how to read Go, learning all of that. I don't have to start from scratch because I have the basic understanding of programming languages. So when I'm reading it, I'm like, okay, obviously this is a variable. Okay, this is a function. This is calling this. Okay, I can kind of see what this is doing because of this. So I get the idea of what the program is doing. and I get the idea of like, okay, so when I run go build, it's going to build this executable that's going to be doing this, it's going to do that. If you were to tell me to write something in Go from scratch, I wouldn't be able to do it. But because I have the basic concepts of understanding programming languages, I'm able to read it and be like, I know what this is doing. So then I know how to write what my workflow would do based off of that. And I think that's one of the things. And I think the easiest way to do that for me would be first, starting off with like pseudocode, understanding programming concepts and theory. You need to know how to read logic, how to read like, if this is doing this, then this will happen. Or you need to know how to read, for this many times, this will do this. Or while this is true, this will do this. So you need to know how to read function, variables, logic, like the logics of how things are. Syntax is different across all these different programming languages, but the logic isn't that different. Now, mind you, if you gave me something that is written in like C# or something, like it's over with, and I probably wouldn't try. Majority of the time, you're not about to read that in DevOps. Like, for example, like how I told you about the project I'm working on is written in Go. And I think because I have the prior logic of like, I know how to read Python, I know how to write in Python, I know how to read bash scripts. All of these things, nothing is that different. The syntax is all different, but the logic of how things are done and what is being done, it's not that different. So it's really helpful. If you guys want to see like my thought process of how I started to learn how to read the new repo and Go, let me know in the comments if that's something you guys want to see, like how I'm going about learning a new language at the same time as doing my project. I can break that down. The other thing that I find to be very, very important, so important, if you are starting off your DevOps journey in 2026, is troubleshooting. I think that engineering, tech, whatever it is that you're calling it, whatever, I think that it is 80% troubleshooting. It is 80% being curious. Really rare, especially at companies that are like already built out. It's really rare that you're creating things from scratch. It's usually updating something doesn't work, working on this. It's usually troubleshooting. But even when you are creating things from scratch, you're creating something, it doesn't work. Troubleshoot it. Then you add the next part. It doesn't work. Troubleshoot it. Like reading logs, reading errors, not just saying, well, this doesn't work. I think one of the things that was helpful when I was working is having an older engineer, like a senior engineer above me. So like if I would be like, hey, this doesn't work. And he's like, well, what does the log say? What does the error say? What did you do? What are your troubleshooting steps? So before I would even come to him and say like, oh, this doesn't work, like I would list out what my troubleshooting steps are. This is what I did to try to troubleshoot it. This is the errors that I got, blah, blah. One thing about troubleshooting that I really learned is changing one thing at a time and then seeing this didn't change that. So let's try this thing. Okay, that didn't change that. Like slowly taking steps to see what the error is, what the problem is. And having the patience, because troubleshooting can be annoying. Having the patience to continuously troubleshoot, read logs, read errors, understanding how to troubleshoot, and then knowing logs and errors, you can usually look them up. Like there's a lot of error codes. You can just go online. Nothing is new under the sun. Somebody ran into that problem before. There's a Stack Overflow paper, there's a Stack Overflow conversation somewhere, or a Medium article somewhere where somebody ran into that problem and they were kind enough to put that online. So you can literally just go look and be like, oh, what were their steps that they did? How did they reproduce this problem? And then you can go and figure that out as well. And the more you troubleshoot and as you're building things up, you're gonna end up having a backlog. And one thing that, I'm just gonna add this in here, that is really helpful that I personally need to get better at is you will run into the same problems multiple times, different ways. Create like a Google Doc or something and like, oh, when I ran into this error, this is the steps that I did, because nothing is more painful than running into an error where you solved it before and you just can't remember what your troubleshooting steps were. So then you spend time trying to retrace your steps. Like, I know I solved this before. I ran into this problem. I saw this permission denied before. I knew what it was, but you can't remember how you solved it. So let us do better in 2026, okay? Not only are we gonna get really good at troubleshooting, but we're gonna get good at documenting how we were able to come up with the solution of the things that we troubleshooted. Another thing that I would do starting off 2026, if I really wanted to be good at DevOps, start off my DevOps journey, is be curious. Like I kind of said this before about the troubleshooting, and this builds back on that, but be curious and read articles. So read your Medium articles, read your Stack Overflow conversations. It's very easy right now to just go into ChatGPT and then put it in and have it explain it to you, which I'm not opposed to. I'm not opposed to using it to help you understand and be like, okay, hey, break this down even more. Okay, explain to me why this is this. Reading what actual people went through when they were troubleshooting it and like what errors they did, what they tried. Like, and you kind of get that more with Stack Overflow. You kind of get that more with the Medium articles. So be curious. Don't always just go straight into putting it into Gemini and ChatGPT to solve the problem for you. But if you can, read articles. Be like, oh, I wonder how this person went through this. Try it on your own first. Go through articles, read things. I think the one thing about engineering, DevOps, and all of that is you need to be curious. You need to ask questions. You need to want to know why something works. Like when your coworker explains something to you, be like, oh, why? Or be like, oh, how? Or why is this the solution? Oh, how did that work? Can you explain that to me a little bit more? One thing that I do, and with their permission, especially with my tech leads, when we have meetings, I ask if I can record it, because first of all, you're not about to remember everything they said, but then that way you can play it back, listening to how they go about solving a problem. That way, as I'm going about solving problems, I can think about the methods and the process that they went through. And then I kind of build off of that, like kind of like, okay, so this is what he did first. Okay, let me try doing things like that. That whole process. So be curious. That is one of the things that I think will really help you in 2026 as you go on your DevOps journey. I think this was 5 things. It may have been more, it may have been less, but overall, this is what I would do if I was starting DevOps over again. I think it's really important to build the foundation and not just jump straight into some tools. Like you jump into tools and then you can get really lost, confused, and feel overwhelmed, and then you would quit easier. So if you are interested in starting your DevOps journey, I have a free DevOps roadmap that goes through different things. It has resources that you can use to start off. It tells you what you need to learn, why you need to learn it, and in what order. And honestly, just why it matters. And it literally has the resources, everything. It is free. The link is in the description below. So make sure you go and you download that. Thank you guys so much. And make sure you guys subscribe on my channel. Make sure you go and follow me on TikTok, as well as I break down a lot of technical concepts over there. And thank you. See you guys in the next video.